Oh, hi. Mr. Jennings here. I was just reading my copy of the Constitution. This book actually has the Declaration of Independence, other documents, including the one I was reading, the Constitution. Right? So, I could just sit here and read this to you in order for you to get the picture of the Constitution. But I'm going to do something different. I'm going to talk about of the four main principles of the Constitution. And it starts off with federalism. Federalism is the separation between the national, state, and local governments. It ensures that there is not too much power for the national government, or for that matter, the state governments. We talked about how they wanted the founders wanted a strong enough government, national government, that it could make laws, but they wanted the states to have rights as well. So the compromise was to have this system of federalism. Another important principle of the Constitution that divides power is the separation of powers, right? And the separation of powers divides the national government even further into the executive branch, the legislative branch, and the judicial branch. These branches all have separate jobs, right? The legislative branch, well, they make the laws. The executive branch, well, they carry out the laws. That brings us to the judicial branch, and they interpret the laws. Each one is different. Each one is important in its own way. Next, we have the principle of checks and balances. Now, checks and balances is very similar to separation of powers, but it's also a little different. Checks and balances means that each branch has a way to kind of help out with the other branch, or to make sure that their power remains in check, hence the checks and balances. It balances out each one of the branches. Now, one of these examples that I can give you is something going on right now. It is how the Supreme Court justices are decided. Now, the president, who is part of the executive branch, right, will nominate a judge, a justice for the Supreme Court, who is part of the judicial branch, right? But the only way that that person can become a justice is if the legislative branch, if they approve the nomination. The Senate has to approve the nomination. So hence this is checks and balances. Each branch is working together on this one task to make sure that there's not too much power for one of those branches. So I hope that makes sense for checks and balances, right? Next, we have limited government. Limited government means that there's not too much power for the national government. And if you actually look at the 9th and 10th Amendment of the Bill of Rights, it states that powers not given directly to the government are given to the states or are given to the people. This is important to realize because it protects people's rights. Okay, so these are the four principles that were given out. I hope that you are able to read your version of the Constitution as well. I recommend a book like this. You could check online as well, and the Constitution will be available to you. That way you could get your own principles of the Constitution as well.